Why would you want to marry somebody who is in such debt? 8 years worth of not paying your taxes, 8 years worth of interest, penalties on top of it, on top of it, on top of it. This man is never going to be able to afford anything.
Welcome back to Love, X's, and O's. We're your favorite divorce lawyers, and today we're going to talk to you about men and relationships, and we have some questions that have been sent into us by some of the viewers. And the question today is, he's hot, but can he file taxes?
Now, let's get down to business. So someone wrote in, I just found out that my boyfriend has not filed taxes for 8 years.
This is a huge problem. I can tell you from handling criminal cases for 31 years and from handling family law cases for a very long time that this is a problem on multiple fronts. Number one, he can have criminal problems from not filing his taxes. If he didn't file them, he probably didn't pay them either. And the IRS is going to be going after him and starting to levy on his personal property. And you don't want to join your personal property with his.
The other part of it that's horrible is that you have to pay interest, you have to pay penalties, and there's sanctions. Instead of buying a house, instead of paying rent, he's going to be paying taxes. They're going to garnish his wages. They're going to grab every dollar that he has. You put all the money together, you're going to go have a wedding, and what happens?
It's going to be a hot mess. From a civil perspective, you don't want the IRS coming after him and threatening him, and it shows that he's irresponsible. And if he's not paying his basic obligations, how can you expect him to live up to his other obligations in life? Listen, no one wants to pay taxes, but we have to do it. He can get a good CPA and minimize his tax responsibility. But before you go down that aisle, you need to make sure that he takes care of those taxes.
And you don't go down that aisle till he's filed his taxes and paid all his taxes. You're not going to be getting married soon. And why would you want to? Why would you want to marry somebody who is in such debt? 8 years worth of not paying your taxes, 8 years worth of interest, penalties on top of it, on top of it, on top of it. This man is never going to be able to afford anything and is irresponsible. What do you want to join your life to someone who's irresponsible? In terms of this follower, we want to tell her not to get married, to make sure that he pays his taxes. If he hasn't done it in 8 years, he is not a good prospect.
Absolutely. 100%. I agree with you.
You need to have people who give it to you straight and tell you to move on. Right?
Because it's going to be much worse if you proceed with these bad decisions and have to deal with it later than if you deal with a little bit of heartbreak up front.
Next, this is what we're going to talk about. My husband says we should have separate bank accounts to maintain independence. Is that reasonable or is it shady?
I know some women prefer to have their own separate bank accounts because they don't want their husband seeing what they're buying, commenting on what they're buying, and criticizing them. It could also be shady because the husband might be doing the same thing and might have a side piece. And I see that a lot. Or might be wasting marital assets. They might be going out gambling. They might have bad habits. They might be doing things differently. But I think what it's really indicative of is you need to have an upfront conversation when you're dating someone about how you want to handle finances and about your money tolerances for different things. One person might be a saver, whereas the other person might be a spender. You want to make sure you're on the same page financially before you go ahead and decide to either split things up or join them together.
You have to trust the other person. And in order for there to be trust, there needs to be transparency. That you need to know how much they're making. You need to know how much they're spending. If you're the one who's making $60,000 and they're making $400,000, you need to know how they're spending their money because this is your life. We're talking not about dating. We're talking about marriage. We're talking about what is happening, and we're talking about how you're going to live your lives. A separate bank account means you don't know anything about what I'm doing. I'm doing it behind your back. That's what it means.
Most of the times they'll find out and all of a sudden they'll see all this debt. They had no idea. They thought they had tons of money. They thought everything was going well. And one spouse was financially deceptive. But I've seen other circumstances where one person's a saver and the other person is a spender and going to spend every last penny. And I've seen that but for the one spouse's account that was separate, they would have zero money to handle all their debt. And I've also seen a lot of cheaters use it as a means to go ahead and cheat and not have the spouse know what's going on, or as a means of power and control, where one person has all the money, the other person is disadvantaged and doesn't have the money, and it creates a crazy power dynamic in the relationship, and it's very unhealthy.
Let me tell you, I think it's shady. You have to know what they're making, know what they're spending. It is shady to have somebody who is going to not tell you what they're doing with their money. It's just unbelievable what people spend their separate secret money on. We represent men and women, okay? I'm telling you, when it comes to credit cards, there are men and women out there who just rack up credit card bills. They just cannot prevent themselves. And this is a bankruptcy situation. Do you want to marry somebody who owes $20, $40, $60, $120,000, who is irresponsible? If they're making $60,000 or they're making $600,000, they spend every single dollar.
100%. That's very important. I have one frequent flyer divorce client that we've represented a number of times, and this individual makes a lot of money. Most people would be thrilled to make as much money as this individual. But as you mentioned, this person has been to bankruptcy not once, but twice, and is now headed there a third time.
Oh, God.
And that's after having divorce CPAs involved. I was able to get the CPA to establish a budget for this person, and they couldn't live within their budget, which is why they're headed there now. And they were making tons and tons of money and should have had tons and tons of money in their retirement accounts, but they keep emptying it because of these irresponsible decisions. They just can't control themselves when it comes to shopping and other things. The next question that we got from our viewers is, we've been engaged for 2 years. He keeps saying we should wait until we're financially stable to get married, but I'm the one paying the bills. Am I being played?
Oh, my God.
If you have to ask the question, are you being played? You're being played.
Yes. And after 2 years, you want to get married to somebody who you have to support. They want to still get married to somebody who has never given anything into the relationship, who hasn't been paying for anything. Something is wrong here from the get-go.
I definitely think it's a huge red flag if you're the one paying all the bills, if you didn't come up with some kind of equality in terms of the relationship. I'm not saying everything has to be 50-50, but some kind of contribution. At some point, if the person isn't responsible enough to be able to support themselves, then why are you supporting them?
You need to know the finances. There needs to be transparency, but more than that, there needs to be responsibility. You want to marry a responsible person who pays their taxes, who doesn't overspend so that whatever they make is gone. Do you want to be married to somebody who is never going to support you, who doesn't care about you? Because if they cared about you, they would have contributed. I cannot understand this woman. And he says no, he's doing her a favor. He is doing her a big favor by not marrying her.
I agree. He's a time vampire. She needs to move on.
A time vampire. I like that concept. This is what one of our viewers said. He said, "What's mine is yours," until she found out that his car was leased in his ex's name. What happens if I marry into this?
Oh my God. If you marry into that, you're headed for a disaster. You need to run. He wasn't honest with you about the fact that he didn't own his vehicle. Red flag number 1. Red flag number 2. It sounds like his ex was supporting him.
Yes.
And he put everything in her name. And he didn't even get her name off of the lease as a courtesy after he broke up with her or she broke up with him.
And we know why. He is irresponsible and doesn't have credit to be able to get himself a car.
Absolutely. And if you marry into this, your name is going to be on his next vehicle and you'll be stuck being responsible for it if he can't pay those bills. The takeaway from the episode is you have to stay away from these people with red flags. If you're asking us whether or not you should get involved, that should be enough hesitancy for you to realize you need to go running and screaming. And don't ruin your life having your time sucked away by time vampires. Thank you guys for sending that stuff in. Hopefully that was as helpful to you as it was shocking to us.
And remember, marriage is a contract. Make sure you read the fine print.